Cori Bush calls out the Missouri governor for giving a pardon to the McCloskeys, and also calls out the Justice Department and just about anybody else who will listen. So we'll talk just about that, including the fact that she had private security when she was camping out in the Capitol steps. That's a fun little twist to that whole story, so we'll go over all of that. Anti-lockdown protests in Melbourne are starting to push the idea that Australians want freedom more than people in the United States, so we will talk about that. Protesters vandalize Eric Garcetti's home after he signs an executive order that targets the homeless, so we'll go over some of what's going on with that. And Mexico sues U.S. gun manufacturers over arms trafficking. It's going to be all this and more over on Contemporary. Hey, do you trust the plan yet? I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Oh, this is a fun one today, guys. We got a bunch of stuff. It's another one of those big shotgun blast scatter shots that's out there of news that's in all kinds of different topics, but we got to get over it all because, there's so much going on here. Plus, it's live chat day, so I've got everybody's name written down on the very last page of my notebook. I got to go get a new notebook, you guys, but, we've been doing this for so long, and I do this every week for you guys and read out the names of everybody who chatted throughout the weeks. And read out some of the stuff that you guys are saying in the chat today. So if you are just lurking or you invited a friend and your friend is just lurking, make sure that everybody gets those last minute messages in so we can come out and say thank you. And remember, if it is sufficiently bigoted or hateful or stupid, it will raise the intellectual level of this program and therefore must get read on the air. So, looking forward to that. You guys, you never disappoint on a Friday. Friday is one of my favorite days to do this because there's always so much fun stuff up in the live chat here. And hey, if we get a Twitch troll in here, go and razz him. See if you can get him to spurg out, get him to do something. Get him to actually bring out what his agenda is as well. So, I always look forward to that. You guys, Friday is the best day for Contemporary, hands down. And they're all good days, of course, but it is the best day for Contemporary. All right, but before we get started, head on over and check out my friends who are participating in my upcoming project here. And I am talking, of course, about the Generational Gap, the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the Freckles and Brit Show, and the R-Rated Conservative. And hey, if you see the RRC go live, make sure you get down there and get in the chat and congratulate him for his move that's upcoming here. And make sure you do it over on Twitch side too, because he really wants to stick it to Bezos. So make sure you guys are all going over and doing that. That's going to be a good thing. And make sure you watch for the new project that John of the Generational Gap is going to be doing, also coming forward, with our friends Midget B and Seawall as well. That's going to be a new project. It's going to be a fun one to watch as well. So everybody, go and check all that out over there. All right. Let's look in at your finance for the day here. Starting with the Dow Jones went up yesterday, 0.78%. So it had another day where it just kind of shot up at the open with the futures and then throughout the day. It had another little bit of a tail up at the end, but we'll see what happens with the jobs report, which is due out in 6 minutes. Which means we're probably not going to cover it today. We'll probably see some stuff because I've got a CNBC article later on in the day. We'll probably see some stuff tick across the headline, but we're probably not going to cover much of the jobs report today. I'm willing to bet it's going to be disappointing. Unless they honk cook the numbers. They would never do that. They would never cook numbers in our government. Everything is always free and fair, and Joe Biden is the most popular president in history. Honk. All right, let's look in at your Bitcoin, which is back up above 40,000. So those of you who bought it on sale yesterday, congratulations. You got a good deal, and now you've got X amount of Bitcoin for X amount of price, or Y amount of price. So absolutely congratulations here. A couple things driving that, of course. We're looking at inflation. We're looking at some of the more housing market stuff. We're looking at evictions that probably won't go through in November because it's cold as fuck in half the country. And a lot of stuff looking in and seeing how people they don't have faith in the regular currency anymore. So that's what we're seeing with that. Gas took a slight tick up. Still at 285 for most of the stations, but the station that was at 283 is now at 284. So watch for your gas prices around the area. It looks like they're staying mostly steady, but up from last week. All right, let's see what IBD has to say. Dow Jones Futures market rally eyes jobs report with several earnings movers. Apple, Microsoft trade bullishly. Oh, by the way, I do also want to point out to you guys that we've got the cross chat going again because your host is a fucking moron. That was me. That was my bad. Because I remember, and I haven't gone and changed the password back. I changed the password to a temporary password for when my guest co-hosts, my guest hosts hosted Contemporary for you a few weeks ago, and I just have not brought myself around to change it back. So when I was trying to go through and do the enter the password and do the CAPTCHA for the live chat bot, I was using the permanent password, not the temporary one that's that's in there right now. That was my fault. I thought about that after I got off there. I'm like, wait a sec, I haven't changed the password back, have I? Well, that was pretty dumb. And then I still had to go through 25 minutes of CAPTCHA. All right, Dow Jones Futures market rally eyes jobs report with several earnings movers. Apple, Microsoft trade bullishly. This is from Ed Carson. Dow Jones Futures were little changed Friday morning, along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures. With the July jobs report looming, the stock market rally had a solid Thursday, with the NASDAQ hitting a record high and the S&P 500 nearly doing so. Floor & Decor, Cloudflare, Carvana, and Palo City, that's a new one, I haven't heard of that one before, were key earnings after the close. Cloudflare retreated from record highs overnight. Floor & Decor stock was little changed, erasing initial losses. Carvana stock jumped while Paylocity? Is it Paylocity? Paylocity? No, it's Paylocity. It's because it's like velocity, like speed. I thought it was a city called Palo. While Paylocity was indicated higher. Growth stocks generally fared well Thursday through new IPO Robinhood Markets tumbled as the free trading app announced a Hood stock sale a week after its IPO. Hood stock is still up sharply this week. Meanwhile, Apple and Microsoft are tightening up, consolidating after earnings and strong runs. Apple stock is arguably in a buy range now, but both the iPhone maker and Microsoft are watching for future buys. Yeah, we'll be talking about those fuckers later on in the day. I am glad I got away from Apple, I'll tell you that. Microsoft stock is on the IBD leaderboard, and IBD long-term leaders Floor & Decor and NetStock are on the IBD 50. On the jobs report, the Labor Department releases the July jobs report at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, so in 2 minutes. Economists expect non-farm payrolls to rise 900,000 with the unemployment rate falling to 5.7%. We'll see. I don't want to get cocky and say, no, that's never going to happen, but we'll see. The July jobs report comes 2 days after the ADP employment report. Estimated private employment grew by 330,000 last month, far below estimates. That's kind of why I'm saying we'll see. A strong jobs report could encourage the Federal Reserve to begin discussing winding down its massive asset purchases. A weak report could push taper talk past the September Fed meeting. On your futures, Dow Jones Futures rose less than 0.1% versus fair value. S&P 500 futures climbed slightly, and NASDAQ 100 futures dipped 0.1%. Expect the jobs report to swing Dow Jones Futures. Yeah, because that's in the industrials. Remember, overnight action in Dow Futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. All right, and with that, let's check in with Yahoo Finance. Stock market news live updates. S&P 500 rises to record close. Dow up 272 points ahead of the July jobs report. Except it's not live. It's from 15 hours ago. Stocks reached record levels on Thursday as investors digested more quarterly earnings results and new data on the labor market's recovery. The S&P 500 advanced to log a record, closing high. Both of the Dow and Nasdaq also ended higher, with shares of cyclical energy and financial stocks, as well as travel and leisure-related firms contributing heavily to the gains. Some of the closely watched companies that recently reported earnings results disappointed relative to Wall Street's consensus estimates, punctuating what has otherwise been an exceptionally strong second quarter earnings season. Ride-hailing giant Uber posted a wider than expected adjusted EBITDA loss for the second quarter, a day after smaller rival Lyft unexpectedly reported an adjusted profit during the same period. And shares of Etsy sank after the company delivered a current quarter sales forecast that came in short of estimates, vindicating many traders' fears over a sharp slowdown in e-commerce growth during the second half of this year. Aside from these blips, however, most major companies have posted second quarter results that exceeded estimates as of last Friday. 59% of S&P 500 companies had posted results, and 88% of these had beaten Wall Street's earnings per share estimates. According to FactSet's latest data, the expected earnings growth rate for S&P 500 companies is tracking towards 85.1%, which would be the biggest jump since the fourth quarter of 2009. So everybody had a really good second quarter, but not necessarily a really good third quarter. That's what I'm anticipating. That's what I want to see out of this year, is what's going to happen in the third quarter with more of the Delta variant. More of the vaccines aren't working. The doomsday variant that could replace the Lambda variant. I'm waiting to see what happens with this, because they can sit here and run fear porn all that they want. And sometimes I do wonder if it's not just they're running fear porn to try to tank the economy, so they can come out and say, see, no, we couldn't have growth because we had the Lambda variant. Oh my God, no, it's not because we inflated the currency and printed the fuck out of the money. It's because of the Lambda variant. I have to wonder if that's going to be some of this here, but we will see what happens with this as we move further into the third quarter of the year. Let's start talking about the big news of the day, starting with Cori Bush from KMOV4. Representative Cori Bush's plea to Parson following McCloskey's pardon. Do something, actually show up. No author given. Representative Cori Bush reacts to Missouri Republican Governor Mike Parson's decision to pardon Mark and Patricia McCloskey, the St. Louis couple who pointed guns at protesters who were walking by their home. It was absolutely unbelievable, Bush described her reaction to the news. She added St. Louisians have called for others to be pardoned, but that was not done. They pointed their guns totally recklessly to a group of nonviolent protesters walking down a street. They had no clue that they lived there. She said, they didn't care that they lived there, they didn't know them, and they didn't want to know them. The McCloskeys, who pleaded guilty in misdemeanor charges, said they felt threatened by the protesters who were passing their home in July 2020 on their way to demonstrate in front of the mayor's house nearby. Among those protesting that night was Bush. Her team told News 4 that Bush did not receive a citation in 2020. I will not stand by and allow Mark McCloskey or our governor to hurt the very people that are doing the work that they should be doing. There are other people, Governor Parson, that you should be looking at, Bush said. We have an activist that's been sitting here for such a long time. Do something. Actually show up and be the governor for all the people of Missouri, not just those that follow your type of politics that actually hurt black people, that actually hurt brown people, that actually hurt people who are LGBTQ communities. In 2018, then Rep. Bruce Franks asked Parson for a pardon. For Ferguson protester Joshua Williams, Joshua was sentenced to 8 years in prison for starting a fire at a store during the protest following the Michael Brown's death. So, here's the difference. Now, Joshua Williams, de facto, took people's stuff. He set a fire. Now, 8 years for arson, I think, is a little bit excessive, depending on the amount of damage that came out of it, of course, and the amount of livelihood that came out of it. But he set a fire that made a person's property unusable to make money off of. He de facto took people's stuff. Mark and Patricia said, "Get off my fucking lawn," with a gun pointed back at them, by the way. And of course, all these the KMOVs, the left wing outlets out there, they do come out there and they say, "Oh no, look at all this here. No. There were no guns here," because the photo was selectively clipped to make sure that the gun that was pointed back at the McCloskeys was cut back out of it. No, there was a gun pointed back off of them. They were in a private gated community that was owned by the homeowners association. They were on private property. Now, we can have an argument whether a governor should be living on private property like that. I don't care for that, especially if it's the governor's mansion. Now, if it was his personal house, he can live wherever the fuck he wants. And if they're going to go to his personal house, that is going to spark some other ideas. If you're going to protest, go to the public place, not somebody's private property. I have a lot of problems with this, and I don't really care for the McCloskeys all that much, to be completely honest. I mean, I like the fact that they did this, but they have piss-poor trigger discipline. You don't put your finger in the trigger guard until you are ready to shoot somebody. But I can sit here and play armchair quarterback all the time. Cori Bush, however, all cops are bastards. The justice system needs to be broken. It's broken down. Break it down. It's broken. We never need to use the carceral system or the justice system. Unless it's the McCloskeys who pointed guns at us. But that's what we're seeing up off of that. Let's grab one from the New York Post. Cori Bush rips pardon of Missouri couple who brandished guns at BLM protesters. This is from Yaron Steinbuch. Progressive Democrat Rep. Cori Bush of Missouri is expressing her outrage after the governor pardoned the couple who brandished firearms at BLM protesters marching past their St. Louis home during the summer's riots, calling the move absolutely unbelievable. It was absolutely unbelievable, Bush, who was among the marchers, told CNN on Wednesday, a day after Republican Governor Mike Parson announced that he'd pardoned Mark and Patricia. Mark had pleaded guilty to the misdemeanor fourth-degree assault, and Patricia pleaded guilty to misdemeanor harassment. The couple had been initially indicted on felony charges. They pointed their guns totally recklessly to a group of nonviolent protesters walking down a street that had no clue that they lived there, the 45-year-old member of the squad said. They didn't care that they lived there. They didn't know them. They didn't want to know them. Now, yes, Patricia did point recklessly with her finger in the trigger guard. Mark McCloskey is an absolute liar. He has spat on my name, and because of that, his day will come. You will not be successful in all that you're trying to do when you are hurting the very people you're out there trying to save lives. He can try it, but I will not stand by and allow our governor to hurt the very people that are doing the work that they should be doing, the visibly angry politician said. The McCloskeys, both in their 60s, said they felt threatened during the June 2020 demonstrations, one of countless similar marches across the country in response to St. George's death, hallowed be his name, a number of which turned into riots. They said the protesters were illegally marching in a central West End gated community. Mark, who has capitalized on his ensuing notoriety and will run for U.S. Senate as a Republican, came out of his home with a rifle while Patricia waved a semi-automatic pistol, according to court records. Let's listen to what Cori had to say here.
Governor of Missouri, a Republican, has pardoned Mark and Patricia McCloskey, who were famously photographed pointing guns at protesters during June of 2020 in those demonstrations in St. Louis. You were actually among the marchers who encountered the McCloskeys that day. Mark McCloskey at the Republican convention called you the Marxist liberal activist leading the mob through our neighborhood. What is your reaction to this pardon?
It is absolutely unbelievable. There are other people that there are pardons that we have been asking for, pardons that actually should happen in Missouri, and that was not one. That was not one. They stood there, they pointed their guns, totally reckless, to a group of nonviolent protesters walking down a street that had no clue that they lived there, didn't care that they lived there, didn't know them, didn't want to know them. Mark McCloskey is an absolute liar. He has spat on my name, and because of that, His day will come. You will not be successful in all that you're trying to do when you are hurting the very people that are out trying to save lives. Nothing good comes from that. He can try it, but I will not stand by and allow him or our governor to hurt the very people that are doing the work that they should be doing. So there are other people, Governor Parson, that you should be looking at. We have an activist that's been sitting for such a long time. Sitting. Do something. Actually show up and be the governor of all the people of Missouri. Not just those that follow your type of politics that actually hurt black people, that actually hurt brown people, that actually hurt people who are unhoused, that actually hurt our LGBTQ community, that actually hurt people who are of the Muslim faith, people who are struggling in this country, and people that are burdened differently than you. Stand up and be the governor of everybody. It's ridiculous.
Congresswoman, obviously, look, you feel very strongly.
It's ridiculous. No, these people stood up for their own private property rights. They had the right to do so. And, you know, especially given the gated community. Now, if this was just an open community like the neighborhood I live in, and I saw BLM walking up and down the street, which they wouldn't make it real far in this city, I'm not going to lie to you at this point, you know, I wouldn't have a problem with it, you know, down the street this way. And even if they turned up, because I live on up a couple series of dead-end streets. Even if they turned up this way, I would still say, okay, you're on the street, you've got the right to be so. But the fact that they came in here and busted down a fucking gate to get into this neighborhood, and I did see in the chat that I was incorrect. That was the mayor's house they were going to, which once again should not be in a gated community. Regardless, any government official should not be in a gated community. But regardless, if you're busting down a gate to get into something, you don't know what these things are going to do. And yes, as the New York Post pointed out, a lot of these turned into riots after being most peaceful protests. You know, once the sun goes down, the burning starts as soon as you can't easily identify people. So, yes, I would be worried about it. I wouldn't do anything about it if they stayed on the street in an open area. But yeah, once you're starting to bust down doors and gates to get into the area to protest, that's where people are going to start getting worried. All right, let's move on. Let's grab one here from the New York Post again. Cori Bush will pay $200,000 for private security, but still wants to defund the police, from Emily Crane. Progressive Democratic Rep Cori Bush has admitted she's willing to fork out $200,000 for private security to protect herself, but says defunding the police still needs to happen. The Missouri rep declared in a CBS interview on Wednesday that despite advocating for defund the police, she needed private security because she'd faced death threats. The 45-year-old member of the squad has faced mounting criticism in recent weeks after it emerged that she'd spent $70,000 on private security in the last 3 months. Asked to respond to those who branded her a hypocrite and unapologetic, Bush hit back on Wednesday by telling critics, "Suck it up. I'm going to make sure that I have security because I now have had attempts on my life, and I have too much work to do. There are too many people that need help right now," she said. "If I end up spending $200,000, if I spend $10 more on it, you know what? I get to be here to do the work, so suck it up." Let's listen.
The thing. I won't let them get that off. You can't get that off. I'm going to make sure I have security because I know I have had attempts on my life and I have too much work to do. There are too many people that need help right now for me to allow that. So if I end up spending $200,000, if I spend $10 more on it, you know what? I get to be here to do the work. So suck it up, and defunding the police has to happen. We need to defund the police and put that money into social safety nets. The thing.
So, security, safety, social services for me, but not for you. Right. They would rather I die. You would rather me die. Is that what you want to see? You want to see me die? You know, because that could be the alternative, she said. Without naming specific people, Bush said she has only received threats because people spread lies about her to build up their base. "I have private security because my body is worth being on this earth right now." Wow, what does that say about your constituents? I have private security because of the white supremacist, racist narrative they drive into this country, she said. What does that say about the people who voted for you? The people whose businesses are going to be protected by police. The people whose lives are going to be protected when they call 911 and says, oh my God, my ex-husband's outside with a gun, what do I do? And they come out and say, okay, ma'am, we will send a social worker over there. But he's got a gun! Okay, well, we'll send a social worker over there to talk him down. Social services are all that we need in this situation. But don't worry, your representative has private security, $200,000 worth. So I thought that was interesting. I thought you guys would find that interesting too. All right, let's shift gears here. Let's talk about our friends over in Australia. Where's Mad Cow Mark? Anybody find Mad Cow Mark? Anti-lockdown protesters marched through Melbourne. Melbourne, as city is sent into 6th COVID lockdown, leading to clashes with police. This is no author given. They do a lot of that on the other side of the world. A senior police officer says Victorians, frustrated with lockdowns, should be wary of being manipulated into joining protests organized by hardcore groups seeking to stoke violence with police. The announcement of Melbourne's 6th lockdown yesterday triggered an angry response from hundreds of people and led to clashes with Victoria police, who made 15 arrests. Demonstrators, some not wearing masks, met near Flinders Street Station at about 7 p.m. and moved to Swanston Street. Flares were lit as the crowd made its way through the streets chanting freedom and no more lockdowns. Assistant Commissioner Luke Cornelius said about 400 people were at the CBD protest at one point. But they weren't protesting for oil, I can tell you that. He said police took action against 31 people, including 16 fines for breaches of health directions. 9 people were held before their identity could be confirmed to issue fines, and 2 were arrested for breaching bail and stating false names. Police said 4 people were expected to be charged on summons in relation to breaching their bail, activating a flare, and hindering police. 4 of the offenders who were arrested or fined are known to police as protest organizers, Victoria Police Assistant Commissioner Luke Cornelius said. They have been dealt with previously, and it is expected will be presented to court on appropriate charges such as incitement. Assistant Commissioner Cornelius said police were reviewing video footage of the assault of an officer outside the Melbourne East Police Station. He said he was outraged that protesters attacked the officer, who suffered minor scrapes and cuts, which did not require treatment. Pushing a police officer over and then kicking him while he's down, it's just a dog act, he told ABC Radio Melbourne. He said, there was a real mix of people at the protest. Yes, it's mums and dads and business owners who are really feeling it during the lockdown, and they've taken the opportunity to come along, Assistant Commissioner Cornelius said. Assistant Commissioner Cornelius said those frustrated by lockdown should be aware of who it is that's urging you to come out and protest. These are some people who are more interested in punching on with police than helping the community deal with the deadly virus, he said. The 7-day lockdown was called after the state recorded 8 new cases of the Delta variant in the latest reporting period. Earlier in the day, Mr. Andrews described the decision to lock down as very difficult. I can tell you how disappointed I am to have to be here doing this again, he said. But with so few in the community with 1 vaccination, let alone 2, I have no choice but to accept advice, and we collectively have to make this important decision to keep Victorians safe. So, they're locking down in Australia again, and the people are not going to fucking deal with it. Which I like here. I also kind of like the fact that it appears that this gentleman here, in the middle of the lockdown protest, is wearing a Trump beanie, because also remember, it's the southern hemisphere, so it is their winter right now. But yeah, this guy's got a Trump beanie on in Australia. I thought that was kind of interesting. All right, let's grab another one on the same topic from 9.com.au. Officer injured in Melbourne anti-lockdown protest as 15 arrested. This is from Natalie Oliveri. Police have condemned the alleged dog act of kicking an officer on the ground at a violent anti-lockdown protest in Melbourne after 15 people were arrested overnight. Victoria Police said the action has been taken against 31 people in total who protested against Victoria's 6th lockdown, with charges expected to be laid out later today. Northwest Metro Assistant Commissioner Luke Cornelius alleged a police officer was being pushed over by protesters and booted while he was on the ground outside a Melbourne East police station. Kicking a police officer when he's down is a dog act, Mr. Cornelius said today. A video of the rally showed hundreds of people, many of them maskless, walking through the city on Thursday night chanting, "Free Victoria" and "Sack Dan Andrews" and "No more lockdowns." Others are expected to be issued with fines for taking part in the illegal gathering, which began around 7 p.m. near Flinders Station. So there's some photos of this. This is essentially a lot of the same information that we saw in the last article, but we can see some of the photos of the riots. These people walking down the street, the arrest, more people, maskless, walking and marching down the street. The public is being urged to call Crime Stoppers and dob those involved. I don't know what dobbing is, but I'm guessing it means ratting somebody out. Yes, are you hiding the protesters in the basement? The protesters, we will find you, the protesters. You tell us what your neighbors are doing, okay? Another march down the road. People of Melbourne, no, not appropriate, selfish really, well, just plainly stupid, says Christian Chong. They have police on horseback. That's awesome. Yeah, 80s kid says people have had enough, and I do have to say that as well with what's going on with that. With this, I look at this and I say, oh, because I look back at the last set of protests, or I'm sorry, the last set of lockdowns that went through Australia, and how Australia lectured the rest of the world of, oh, you see, mate, we've been good, and we killed the coronavirus here in our country here, and we've been good. So that just lock down. Do whatever the government tells you in lockdown. Like, you're not living on an island with a society that was built off a prison colony. I can't believe the amount, the sheer amount of people who are willing to do what the government says when that's what your society is. You were a prison colony. That's how you were founded. And yes, you have built a booming society off of the fact of that, but you never forget the fact that yes, you're a British prison colony. That's the way you guys. That's the reason you guys talk the way that you do. And then you'll just accept whatever the government tells you to. But not anymore, it appears, or at least some of them. All right, let's grab one from NBC4. Order requires all LA County employees to get COVID vaccine by October. Shifting gears, let's talk about Los Angeles from City News Service. All Los Angeles County employees will be required to be vaccinated against the pinko fucking pox by October 1st under an executive order issued by Board of Supervisors Chair Hilda L. Solis. With the coronavirus raging, again, driven by the highly contagious Delta variant, Solis said, the need for immediate action is great. Solis cited an 18-fold increase in cases and a 5-fold jump in hospitalization since June 15th, not June of 15, when the county lifted coronavirus restrictions amid falling case rates. In announcing the executive order Wednesday night, Solis said there will be exemptions for medical and religious purposes, but otherwise it will apply to all of the country's 110,000 employees regardless of the department that they serve. The order came on a day that the county announced another 3,734 COVID-19 cases, the largest single-day number since the beginning of February. The new cases gave the county an overall total from throughout the pandemic of 1,311,656. That's like, isn't that like every man, woman, and child in Los Angeles? Today, the county is reporting another 3,734 new cases, 1,242 hospitalizations, and tragically 16 deaths, Solis said in a statement. When the country was marked its reopening on June 15th, there were only 210 confirmed cases. Fewer than 220 were hospitalized with the pinko fucking pox, and the positivity rate set an incredibly low 0.6%. However, the rapid spread of the Delta variant, our daily cases have increased nearly 18-fold and hospitalizations more than 5-fold, as vaccinations continue at a pace slower than what is necessary to slow the spread. We need immediate action is great. Solis said the October 1st deadline provides county workers with a timeline in which they can consult with their healthcare providers. She also said, as a board chair, she has the power, during a proclaimed local emergency, to promulgate orders and regulations necessary to provide for the protection of life or property. On March 4th, 2020, the LA County Health Officer issued a declaration of local health emergency due to the pinko fucking pox. Solis's order is more sweeping than mandates elsewhere in the country, including the city of Los Angeles and the state of California. Which state that government employees get vaccinated or agree to regular testing. Solis's executive order does not include a testing option. In her statement, Solis indicated she hopes that other employers of the county will follow her lead. We are once again demonstrating to employers across the country that we are prepared to lead by example and set a standard for slowing the spread, just as we did when reinstating indoor masking, which has been since emulated by varying degrees by the CDC, the state and localities across the country. She said, "We must all be prepared to come together and do our part to protect one another and get this virus under control once more. We cannot wait another day as the virus continues to upend and dramatically alter the lives of our residents. With today's executive order, the county is prepared to lead, and I am hopeful other employers across the great country, or county rather, but they're probably going to talk about the country too, can do the same." And what California does, the rest of us wind up doing. I don't know if you guys have noticed this or not. Now, there have been some advancements out there in the nature of how this is going to get done, such as here in my great state of Wisconsin, where the Supreme Court has literally defanged our governor. He can't do a goddamn thing at this point. He can't do a state mandate. He can do one for state employees because he's the boss of the state employees, but he can't do a state mandate anymore. He shot his wad. Twice. He's not allowed to do it anymore. The legislature has to do that. And then they have to answer to their constituents. But yes, they have to do this. And there are other states. Looks like Michigan is in the same boat. Their governor is defanged. They can't go back and lock down. We're going to see what actually happens when there are no lockdowns in some of these places. Like South Dakota. Oh, the biggest spread of the common coof is in South Dakota because of Sturgis. Oh my God, Kristi Noem is killing people. Ron DeSantis is killing people. But that's what we're going to see coming back up out of here. Let's grab one from the Daily Wire. Deputy Sheriff's Union pushes back against LA County executive order requiring proof of full COVID-19 vax. From Jeffrey Cowwood. A labor union representing more than 7,000 deputies in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is pushing back against a new executive order that mandates county employees provide proof of full vaccination against the pinko pox. The Association for Los Angeles Deputy Sheriffs released a statement on Thursday indicating the union would challenge the directive. The move comes a day after Hilda Solis, a former labor secretary in the Obama admin, who is currently chair of the LA County Board of Supervisors, one hand washes the other, announced a new requirement. ALADS saw Supervisor Solis' tweet last night notifying 110,000 county employees that they would be required to receive a COVID-19, the union said. In a statement, Supervisor Solis, announced via Twitter, was a prime example of the lack of professionalism we have come to expect from her office. The statement further criticized Solis, claiming she failed to reach out to the stakeholders before issuing the mandate. ALADS said its lawyers were reviewing the order and is asserting its bargaining rights over the decision. Our legal team is preparing to meet with County and Sheriff's Department regarding Supervisor Solis' executive order and to defend the rights of our members, it continued. ALADS President James Wheeler sent a separate letter to Solis on Thursday, requesting that her representatives contact him to schedule negotiation sessions. Solis and other elected officials on the 5-member Board of Supervisors have been feuding with Sheriff Alex Villanova over multiple issues, including civilian oversight over the department and the homeless. So they're pushing back. The police, who are going to be the ones who would enforce this otherwise, are pushing back against the government. And I'm here to watch it. I'm here to see it. I'm here to see what happens with this and where it goes. Who's going to be in the right, who's in the wrong? But once again, what happens in California tends to happen across the rest of the country. So I would start watching for some of this if you're not in states that have defanged their governors. Because some of you guys might have to go through this. Or states that have Democrat governors and Democrat legislatures. You guys might have to go through this. All right, let's grab one here from KOB4 out of New Mexico. Floyd School Board suspended after refusing to comply with mask guidelines. From KOB Web Staff, the 5-member Floyd School Board was suspended Wednesday after refusing to comply with the New Mexico Public Education Department's guidelines on masks and Pinko-Pox protocols. We never want to suspend a school board. That's not the relationship we want to have, said Secretary Ryan Stewart, New Mexico Public Education Department. It's incumbent upon us to lead here and step in and say we have to create a safe environment for our kids. I was going to say, do I have to archive this really quick to read the rest of this? Because I saw the banner at the bottom here. The Floyd Board voted July 26th at a special meeting to make masks and social distancing optional. They were given until August 3rd to rework their policy. Leah Null, the board president, said they wouldn't rework the policy. So New Mexico Public Education Department Secretary Ryan Stewart suspended all the school board members, Leah Null, Jeff Essery, Vicki Bannister, Charles C. Lee, and Ryan Bolema. I think the governor's office and her public education department is going a little too far on this. It's a small school district, and they know their students, and they know their situation, said Republican Senator Stuart Ingle. The board has also voted to place Damon Terry, the superintendent of Floyd Municipal Schools, on administrative leave. New Mexico Public Education Department Secretary Ryan Stewart reinstated Damon Terry as superintendent. The Public Education Department takes its responsibility to ensure a safe and healthy environment for all staff and students incredibly seriously. We cannot put students, staff, and their families at unnecessary risk as we continue to fight against the Delta variant. By ignoring these basic safety measures, the board impairs the ability of the district to offer safe and uninterrupted in-person learning opportunities, Stewart said in the suspension memo. I have problems with this, you guys. I don't like this, and I'm sure that everybody watching this program right now knows why I don't like this. I don't like this one little bit. I think this is shit. I really do. I'm looking at this right now, and the first thing that I have to say is, why have a school board? If the public education department can come in at any time and say, you have no school board anymore, our rule is law, then why have a school board? Why not just have a State Department of Education at this point? So people can feel like they actually have a say in what's going on in their schools? If what I'm seeing here is the case, then that's not true. Because these 5 people that you just suspended were elected by the people to represent them to the state of New Mexico and also make a determination as to what happens in their local school board. They're accountable to the people, not to the state. But you just made them accountable to the state. This needs to be challenged. We need to look and see what's in New Mexico's constitution to see if this is even legal or not. Because I would push on whether or not this is even legal to be done. But that's what we're seeing off of that. Let's grab one from the Hill. Representative Ralph Norman tests positive for COVID-19 despite vaccination. From Michael Schnell. I wonder how many of these Democrats are actually getting the pinko fucking pox. And they're just not testing it because it doesn't fit the narrative. You have to get vaccinated because you won't get the pox anymore, and it'll be increasingly rare that you get it. And yet Lindsey Graham and now Ralph Norman, all the Texas Democrats, Pelosi staff, White House staff. Let's see what Michael Schnell has to say. Representative Ralph Norman announced Thursday that he tested positive for the pinko pox despite being fully vaccinated. After experiencing minor symptoms this morning, I sought a COVID-19 test and was just informed the test results were positive. Thankfully, I have been fully vaccinated and my symptoms remain mild, Norman wrote in a statement. He said he will quarantine for the next 10 days and continue to work virtually. Is work virtually like he's going to Zoom in, or is work virtually like what most all of the members of Congress do, where he's not actually going to work, but he's still going to collect taxpayer paycheck? Senator Lindsey Graham announced Monday that he had tested positive for the virus despite completing his vaccination series. The 2 breakthrough cases, which the CDC define as people who tested positive for the virus despite being fully vaccinated, come as concerns are growing regarding the highly infectious Delta variant, which has taken hold in the U.S. as the dominant coronavirus strain. Health experts, however, have emphasized that breakthrough cases are still rare and typically cause milder symptoms or asymptomatic cases. The majority of recent hospitalizations and deaths have been unvaccinated individuals. Yeah, trust those numbers. Graham, in a statement, said, if he wasn't vaccinated, my symptoms will be far worse, sweetie. Norman, along with other GOP reps, was fined $500 in May for not wearing a face covering on the House floor, according to the Associated Press. At the time, the chamber's mask mandate for the floor was still in effect. The members challenged the fines in June, contending that the punishment was not in line with new guidance from the CDC, and said that fully vaccinated people can nix face coverings indoors and aid at the time said the congressman was vaccinated, according to NBC News. The House Ethics Committee, however, announced last month that Norman's appeal, along with that of Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was a plant, and Thomas Massie had failed. So, yeah, another breakthrough case. All right, let's grab one from WBRZ. CNN reportedly fires unvaccinated employees for going to the office. See, I tried to go and find this from CNN themselves, but surprise, surprise, they're not reporting on this. They don't want you to know that they just fired people for unvaccinated because we're CNN and we are pillars of the community and all of our people will get the vaccine because they are pillars of the community. They will do what we say, as should you. Which, frankly, if they can't even get their employees in line, why the fuck would I do what they say? Let's see. Do I have an author? WBRZ staff is the author on this one. But it looks like they took this over from the BBC. Due to their unvaccinated status, several workers at CNN's headquarters in Atlanta are suddenly without a job on Friday morning, according to the BBC. The news outlet says 3 employees were fired for entering the office without receiving a COVID vaccine. CNN chief Jeff Zucker mentioned the dismissal in a Thursday, August 5th company memorandum. The memo reportedly said vaccination is mandatory for anyone reporting in the field, working with any other employees, or going to an office. The incident marks one of the first examples of a U.S. company terminating staff or refusal to comply with its vaccination mandate. Legally, the company is within its legal rights to take such action, according to the BBC. A number of well-known firms, such as Facebook and Google, have announced plans to require COVID vaccinations among employees when offices fully reopen in the months to come. President Biden is requiring the nation's 2 million federal employees to show proof of vaccination or submit to mandatory testing and mask wearing. And yes, they are legally within their rights to do so. And really, honestly, if you're working for a company that would require you to get a vaccination like this, in order to work for the company, you really need to start rethinking the fact that you work for the company. And I think that you should get vaccines for various diseases out there, like polio, like smallpox, like MMR. Vaccines that have been thoroughly and fully tested along the way. But if you don't want to, I'm not here to force you to it. I can say, yes, I think that's a good idea. But now you have to take my recommendation that that's a good idea and weigh it against the cons and say, yes, I think that J. Edgar is right, that this is a good idea. Or no, that J. Edgar is a fucking quack and I'm not going to put that shit in my body. That's your decision, not mine. I think it's a good idea. I've also weighed the risks and the cons, the pros and the cons of the COVID vaccine. Like I said, I'm not one of the people that'll come out and say, as soon as it goes into your arm, you've become magnetic. I'm not one of those people. I'm not a 5G person, even though I tease people for it when they do get it. Hey, how's your cell reception? Even though I do tease that a little bit, I don't actually believe that this is a COVID tracker, or not a COVID, but a 5G signal boost or anything like that. I don't believe that either. I just looked at this and I said, well, if I get it, I'm young and I'm healthy, and I probably won't have to deal with a whole lot of stuff. And if I do, well, it's probably my time. And everybody that I've seen get the vax has been taken out for 2 weeks because they've been so sick from the vaccine. This isn't for me. I can't afford to have these 2 weeks off like that. It's not for me. I'll take my chances with the actual disease. Boy, does that make people uncomfortable when you tell them that too. But that's where we go with that. Nina Turner slammed for claiming she didn't lose the race. Evil money manipulated the election. So this is one of those that we had to skip yesterday, but still, it was funny enough that I said, we got to do this one. This is from Jessica Chasmer. Nina Turner is facing blowback from both sides of the political aisle after she blamed her special election primary loss Tuesday night in Ohio to evil money. Turner, a progressive former Ohio state lawmaker who co-chaired the 2020 presidential run of Senator Bernie Sanders, lost her bid for the Democratic nomination to Cuyahoga County Councilwoman Chantel Brown in the race to fill Representative Marcia Fudge's old seat representing Ohio's 11th Congressional District. During her concession speech Tuesday night, Turner characterized the election as one manipulated by evil money. I'm going to work hard to ensure that something like this never happens to a progressive candidate again. See, we didn't lose this race. Evil money has manipulated and maligned this election, she said, according to a video posted by Newsweek. See, I don't want you to relent because it took evil money, she continued. They took evil money to come in here. Is there a video of this, by the way? No, but Deborah Messing is in this. So that's going to be fun. Oh, there is video. Let's watch the video.
See, we didn't lose this race. Evil money manipulated and maligned in this election.
All right. Anyway. The Ohio race highlighted the deepening rift between the Democratic Party's left wing and its establishment. Turner is a squad-backed progressive who was endorsed by Sanders and Representatives Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, D. Twitch, and Ilhan Omar, D. Somalia. while Brown was backed by Sanders' former rival Hillary Clinton, leaders of the Congressional Black Caucus, and Jewish Democrats who favored her outspoken support for Israel. According to Jewish Insider, Jewish community members in the district who represent a sizable and politically active voting bloc were particularly energized by Brown's candidacy and had launched an aggressive canvassing campaign on her behalf. Liberal and conservative critics on social media called Turner's evil money comments anti-Semitic. They also pointed out that Turner outraised Brown by roughly $2.4 million, according to the Columbus Dispatch. Others compared Turner to former President Trump, who still claims he is the rightful winner of the 2020 presidential election, which he is not. Joe Biden is the most popular president in history. Honk, honk. Honk. Deborah Messing. And of course, Deborah Messing had to be the first one on this here. Nina Turner is spinning a yarn about evil money being responsible for her loss, and yet she had much more money than the winner. Integrity is trying your best and gracefully acknowledging that the people didn't choose you, standing by the winner, and work hard to support them. Yeah. The evil money she's referring to is Jewish Dems, vocally backing her opponents, and her response here only validates why they were right to do so. I would find it funny, too, and this is if this is actually an anti-Semitic comment, which I don't know if it is. I'm not inside Nina Turner's head. On its face, it actually sounds very anti-Semitic. But given the fact that she worked for Bernie Sanders, tells me maybe not. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But yes, that right here is the reason why Nina Turner lost. Progressives will continue to lose with this attitude. And yeah, I mean, you've got your Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, D-Twitch, who is in a district that will vote for a glass of water with a D on it. So, I mean, it's not that impressive that she's the Democratic rep for New York 14. That's not that impressive. But I do have to wonder what she would say if somebody from the center, from the old establishment, came in there and tried to go out and challenge her. And the woman that did try to challenge her, by the way, was not it. She was not it. And then the Republican that they tried to run against her, that was definitely not it. I knew that wasn't going to go anywhere. But yeah, I thought you guys would enjoy that one. Let's grab one from the Texas Tribune. 2 House Democrats broke quorum, missing from Washington, D.C., reportedly vacationing in Portugal. From Patrick Zvitek and Cassandra Pollock. The Texas House Democratic Caucus could not account Tuesday for 2 of the members who broke quorum and fled for Washington, D.C. over Republicans' priority elections bill. Meanwhile, a Texas Monthly reporter said the members were on vacation in Portugal. State Reps Julie Johnson of Farmers Branch and Jessica Gonzalez of Dallas were not with other House Democrats on Tuesday in the nation's capital, according to a person familiar with the situation. On Tuesday evening, Texas Monthly reporter Jonathan Tillo tweeted that he can confirm Johnson and her wife Gonzalez and her fiancé are in Portugal for a vacation they had been planning with non-refundable tickets for a year and a half. Neither Johnson nor Gonzalez or their staffs responded to requests for comment from the Texas Tribune throughout Tuesday and Wednesday morning. So I don't know if they're actually in Portugal or not. I mean, it wouldn't be really that hard to go check somebody's fucking passport. Seriously. I don't know if they're there or not. But if they are, well, that's kind of shameful. Even if you have a non-refundable ticket off of here. What did we say, by the way, when Ted Cruz went down to Mexico, to Cancun? Because we thought that in the midst of this crisis here, we'd just get our family down there and let them out and let them go enjoy the sun while everybody else was in here cold. And he got raked over the fucking coals for it. Rightfully, by the way. He should have been raked over the coals because that was a tremendously fucking stupid thing to do. Yes, and I understand. There's nothing that Ted Cruz could have done in that situation. But still, you don't do something like that. It's dumb. There's a difference between coming up and doing something that's actually detrimental to your image. But supporters of these 2 Texas Democrats in a situation where they're actually trying to do something, they're trying to make a statement. Oh, no, they're just in Portugal. We're not going to worry about that. No, we're not going to tell the media about that either. All right, let's grab one from CBS 2. Protesters vandalized Mayor Eric Garcetti's home after he signs ordinance to restrict homeless encampments. From CBS Los Angeles staff. We're flying right along today, you guys. We might get through everything. And your live chat, too, by the way. By the way, if you are just lurking right now, make sure you get some of those last-minute messages in because, yeah, I want to see what it is that you guys have to say today. So absolutely get at least one message in, and if it is sufficiently hateful, bigoted, or stupid, it will raise the intellectual level of this program and will get read on the air. So continue to do that. Absolutely, you guys. All right. Anyway, let's see what they're saying over there. Protesters vandalized. I read the headline already. This is from CBS LA staff. Protesters descended on the mayoral residence Thursday night, leaving behind trash and graffiti just hours after Mayor Eric Garcetti signed an ordinance restricting homeless encampments in Los Angeles. A crowd of 50 people began protesting at the residence around 7:30 p.m. Thursday, according to the Los Angeles Police Department. The protest started peacefully, but ended with dozens of officers responding in riot gear, dispersing the crowd. All cops are bastards except for the ones that go and protect Eric Garcetti, apparently. He gets to have protection. No one was ever in danger. Our role last night was to facilitate a peaceful protest and make sure that everyone's First Amendment rights were protected. LAPD Lieutenant Rex Ingram said, unfortunately, around midnight, they were a little bit loud and boisterous and we were getting a little bit out of hand, so that's why we decided to give them a dispersal order. However, when the officers arrived to disperse the crowd, they were no longer there, Ingram said. No arrests were made and no injuries were reported. However, some damage was left to the property, including vulgar graffiti on outer pillars that were covered up with paper to be cleaned later Friday morning. The property was also toilet papered. The LAPD said they were not aware of why protesters were there, but some signs that were spotted during the protest said 5 unhoused people a day die in Garcetti's LA, and your sweeps are violent, we will not be silent. The city of Los Angeles has been struggling with the homeless crisis and how to handle encampments that proliferated during the pinko fucking pox pandemic. Large homeless encampments have been cleared in Venice and in Echo Park, moves that were greeted by some protests that turned violent, and the city just passed an ordinance restricting where such encampments can be located. So Garcetti tried to do something about the homeless problem that he exacerbated, and now they're pissed off at him. Haha. Yeah, look, we had a friend over on Instagram. Briefly. I don't think he's there anymore. All right, let's grab one from The Hill. Liz Cheney says her father is deeply troubled by the state of the Republican Party. Liz, I'm going to say this in the nicest way possible. Let me collect my words here for a second, because I want to make sure that I express how I feel, but I'm actually very kind about it. Liz? I don't give a flying motherfuck what your father has to say after he pushed the Bush administration into bombing a bunch of brown kids in the fucking Middle East, and neither does any fucking buddy else. That's the nice way I could say that. From Michael Schnell. Representative Liz Cheney on Wednesday said her father, former Vice President Dick Cheney, is deeply troubled about the state of the Republican Party. My dad is deeply troubled about where our party is, deeply troubled about where the country is, Cheney said during an event hosted by the Aspen Institute. What, you mean not going out to start a new fucking war every 30 seconds in the Middle East? She said her father, who has served under former President W., has been a tremendous source of advice and guidance and wisdom for me. That's the fucking problem right there, isn't it? You're taking cues from your war pig fucking father. Liz Cheney has been among the most vocal GOP critics of former President Trump's failed campaign to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election and the Republican Party's support of his efforts because Joe Biden is the most popular president in history and got more votes than even Barack Obama, honk honk. She repeatedly rejected his claims that the vote was influenced by fraud and that the election was stolen. It wasn't, honk honk. Most popular president in history, honk. Wink wink. Which ultimately led the House GOP caucus to oust her from her post as conference chairwoman. I am holding back our vote. I'm very much holding back. Because YouTube frowns on it when you wish death on somebody. Cheney was one of the 10 House GOP members to vote to impeach Trump on a charge of inciting an I'm like Jim Carrey in Liar Liar. I can't say the word if it's a lie. Inciting the selfie fest following the January 6th entrance on the Capitol. She has frequently blamed the former president for the events that led to the riot. The Congresswoman is now one of 2 Republicans, along with Adam Kinzinger, serving on the Select Committee. Because she's a token. I was going to do the jerk-off move, but, you know, that was probably a little bit more phallic. Along with Kinzinger, serving on the Select Committee, probing the attack. Oh, they're probing something, all right. Both were nominated by Speaker Pelosi. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy has been critical of their decision to accept the nominations, calling the 2 GOP members Pelosi Republicans. Tokens. That's what they are. Cheney's comments about her father's outlook on the current state of the Republican Party may come as a surprise to some. Really? The Donald didn't start any new wars. He's not a real Republican. No, Cheney's arm of the Republican Party, and you can interchange whichever fucking one you want in this situation. Cheney's arm of the Republican Party is, we're here to lose gracefully to Democrats and start wars whenever we do have power. Fuck the Cheneys. May come as a surprise to some, considering his reputation as being one of the most powerful vice presidents in history. He was a key player in decisions made by the W administration, especially the move to send troops into Iraq following the September 11th terrorist attacks. Cheney also represented Wyoming in the House before serving as Secretary of Defense under HW, which meant more war pigging, warmongering, and more sending people into the fucking Middle East. Fuck this asshole. Why is the Hill spending valuable time and resources telling us what it is that this motherfucking war pig has to say? I don't know if any of you guys got this, but I don't like Dick Cheney. I don't really care for W either. All right, let's keep going here. U.S. grants temporary shelter to Hong Kong residents. From Charlotte Pence Bond. The U.S. is offering a temporary safe haven for Hong Kong residents in light of the actions taking place against the people of Hong Kong by the CCP. Oh, shut the fuck up. No, I'm not going to spend money on your AVG cleanup. It's a brand new PC. Fuck yourself. As reported by the Wall Street Journal, President Biden signed an order on Thursday that will allow some Hong Kong residents to stay in the U.S. instead of going back to Hong Kong for 18 months. In a memorandum, Biden said the U.S. supports human rights and fundamental freedoms of the residents of Hong Kong, recognizing the significant erosion of those rights and freedoms in Hong Kong, the People's Republic of China. I'm directing the deferral of removal of certain Hong Kong residents who are present in the United States. Hey, vote for me, okay? No, I don't care that you're not a citizen. Vote for me. Offering safe haven for Hong Kong residents who have been deprived of the guaranteed freedoms in Hong Kong furthers the United States' interest in the region. The United States will not waver in our support of the people in Hong Kong. Press Secretary and red-haired bobblehead Jen Psaki said, This action demonstrates President Biden's strong support for the people in Hong Kong in the face of ongoing repression by the People's Republic of China and makes clear we will not stand idly by as the PRC breaks its promises to Hong Kong and international community. And we'll circle back for the rest of this, please. The deferred enforcement departure, which means that this is DACA 2.0, is not a specific immigration status. Of course it's not. They're going to be in immigration limbo just like the fucking DACA kids. But it allows the president to designate certain people as under the action who are typically from a specific country. Under the DED, these people are not subject to expulsion from the U.S., typically for a certain period of time. As Fox News reported, previous examples of DED use include former President Trump deferring removal for Venezuelans in January, and then President W's deferring the removal of Liberians in 2007, which is still in effect. Now, see, and, I support the people of Hong Kong. But I look at this, I see this happening here, and this is just another way to pull more people in for DACA, so that you can come back and say, hey, look, no, this next Republican president, he's a racist against Asian people because Donald Trump told them to be a racist against people because of the China virus. So he's going to expel these people back to China because he's racist against Chinese people. You better not elect a Republican because otherwise he'll end the DED. That's what I'm seeing coming out of this. I'm not seeing this as being some sort of actual situation that the Biden administration is going to use to benefit the common good. This is just another club to go beat other people over the fucking head with. All right, let's keep going. From NBC, some more stuff on the infrastructure bill. Infrastructure bill includes key consumer safety measures to prevent drunk drivers avoid hot car child deaths. From Paul A. Eisenstein, the infrastructure bill awaiting a Senate vote includes a number of automotive safety measures, one requiring new technology to keep drunk drivers off the road, and another that alerts drivers who may have inadvertently left a child in their vehicle. Drunk driving kills another American every 52 minutes, according to the NHTSA. Over the past 5 years, annual deaths have averaged over 10,000 deaths, or nearly 30% of total highway fatalities, NHTSA shows. I want to, just off the cuff here, I want to go see if, let me put something, I want to put something else up on the top here, yes. I'm going to move this up over to here because this is in the same vein. Those already convicted of drunk driving offenses may already have to prove they are sober using technology similar to a police breathalyzer. They blow into a tube with sensors then detecting your blood alcohol level. A camera system confirms someone else isn't blowing into the system. The technology is cumbersome and costly, said Carla Bilo, CEO of the Center for Automotive Research. The challenge is to come up with something easier to use and more affordable if it's to be installed on millions of new vehicles each year. I don't think that will be as easy as people think, Bilo told NBC News. Nissan, for one, is working on a system that would use several different methods to see if it impaired drivers behind the wheel. Multiple sensors detect alcohol in the cabin air. A camera atop the instrument cluster looks for facial cues signaling the driver is inebriated. And if the vehicle itself looks for driving patterns suggesting an impaired driver. But one concern is that the system could be triggered by drunk passengers, even with a sober designated driver. Yup. The federal government is funding research through the driver alcohol detection system. For safety programs, several possible solutions are being studied, including one similar to a breathalyzer. It would measure alcohol in the air around the driver. However, rather than requiring a motorist to blow into a tube every time they want to start their vehicle, like Nissan's system, the challenge is to avoid false positives from an inebriated passenger. And I mean, you've always had that. don't want to go too into detail of it because of the woman involved, who is now married with kids. We're friendly again, but, I've had that situation. And this was in a 95 pickup truck. So, I mean, there was no technology like this on there. But, her and I went out and had a couple drinks. And this was back in the bench seat days. This was before you had the big center console like you had in there. But, just looking at the situation like that. Now, this girl was absolutely soused to the fucking gills, couldn't stand up, trashed. And I'd had a couple of scotches back when I could still hold my fucking liquor, back before I quit drinking. If I had that now, I would probably not be able to get in a vehicle and drive. But back then, I could actually hold my liquor and I could do this. So I had a couple, and we got in the truck and went off. And now, my breath aside, even if I was the designated driver, this girl, who we were seeing each other at the time, the first thing she does is she curls up across the bench seat, head in my lap, and passed out while I'm driving. And between the snoring and everything else that was coming out of her and all the tequila that she had, that would have been a definite false positive in the region of the driver. And of course, then you've also got the blow tube that they keep talking. They don't want to do the blow tube, but they keep having the blow tube discussion off of this. And there are other situations that go with this too. Now, this is a massive Fourth Amendment violation anyway. What right does the government have to have a search and seizure on your vehicle every time you go to get in your vehicle? They've already got extended rights beyond the Fourth Amendment just by the fact that you have a license plate on your vehicle. Why give them more? And the other one that really gets me on this is, it's not necessarily something that has to do with the road, but I worked at the campground for a while. And we would take the company vehicles, the company trucks, or sometimes my truck, and drive through, go pick up trash in the company truck, go pick up debris, go out, check out on various sites, or haul something through the campground off the main road with a beer in the hand. It's private property. You can go back and do that. You can have a glass of scotch, a beer in your hand. As long as you're not touching the public road, you're not driving with an open container. Now, of course, there was a little bit of a gray area when you crossed the road, because that particular campground was on both sides of a road, a little town road off to the side of things, but regardless. Yeah, you ran into maybe some issues if you did that, but yeah, if you're just driving through the park with a beer in your hand, that's another thing that comes up off of this. What happens when you're not on the road? But yeah, this is big stuff here. And on top of this here, I moved this one up to the top because this is kind of in the same vein. Not drunken driving, but extrajudicial searches. From Ars Technica, Apple explains how iPhones will scan photos for child sexual abuse images. From John Brodkin. Shortly after reports today that Apple will start scanning iPhones for child abuse images, the company confirmed its plans and provided details in a news release and technical summary. Apple's methods of detecting known CSAM, child sexual abuse material, is designed with user privacy in mind. Bull fucking shit! Apple's announcement said instead of scanning images in the cloud, the system performs on-device matching using a database of known CSAM images hashes provided by NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and other child safety organizations. Apple further transforms this database into an unreadable set of hashes that is securely stored on users' devices. Apple provided more detail on the CSAM detection system in a technical summary and said this system uses a threshold set to provide an extremely high level of accuracy that ensures less than 1 in 1 trillion chances per year of incorrectly flagging a given account. The changes will roll out later this year on updates to iOS 15, iPad OS 15, Watch OS 8, and Mac OS Monterey, Apple said. Apple will also deploy software that can analyze images in the Messages application for a new system that will warn children and their parents when receiving or sending sexually explicit photos. What the absolute 100% ever-loving fuck is this? Now, of course, this is wrapped up in a nice, neat bow in a box that says, here's a present for you. We're going to protect your children. Oh, yes, we're going to put this out here. All we're going to do is we're going to protect your children. How can you possibly be against this if you're protecting your children? What else are they looking for? The system scans every single photo in your system, looking for the elusive child porn, which, yes, if you are trafficking in child porn, you should be thrown headfirst into the fucking wood chipper. If you were trafficking in that. But why does that entitle Apple to give me an extrajudicial search for anything? What's the next thing? Oh, well, you spoke out too much against the government, which, I mean, webcam and microphone, I'm fucked anyway, but, oh, you spoke out too much against the government. Oh, you didn't like these government policies. Oh, we just happened to see you share this extremist meme about putting somebody in a wood chipper. Oh, hey, authorities, hey, look at this guy here. Where does it stop? That's the problem. It's not the fact that they're doing this for child porn. I like the fact they're trying to curb child porn. But the fact that they're doing it this way tells me that this is going to be used somewhere else down the road. This is too far. This is entirely too far. But they actually do have an explanation. I'm not going to go too much into it because I'm not tech illiterate enough to do so. But I will put this article in the Discord if you guys want to go see it. Go check out the Discord over there and see what's going on there. Apple accused of building an infrastructure for surveillance. No shit, Sherlock. Despite Apple's assurances, security experts and privacy advocates criticized the plan. Apple is replacing an industry-standard end-to-end encrypted messaging system with an infrastructure for surveillance and censorship, which will be vulnerable to abuse and scope creep not only in the US but around the world, said Greg Nogim, co-director of the Center for Democracy and Technology Security and Surveillance Project. Apple should abandon these changes and restore its users' faith in the security and integrity of their data on Apple devices and services. For years, Apple has resisted pressure from the U.S. government to install a backdoor on its encryption systems, saying that doing so would undermine security for all users. Apple has been lauded by security experts for this stance, but with its plan to deploy software that performs on-device scanning and share selected results with authorities, Apple is coming dangerously close to acting as a tool for government surveillance, Johns Hopkins University cryptography professor Matthew Green suggested on Twitter. Yeah, because what do they intend to do with this stuff, too? I mean, what's the intent if they find the stuff on your phone? Oh, we'll just delete this. Oh, no, it'll be fine. No, they're not going to delete this. They're going to tell the authorities. Get rid of your fucking iPhone, you guys. And I know that Samsung is not going to be far behind on this, and Google's not going to be far behind on this. I don't know what the answer is there, but get rid of your fucking Apple. I'll tell you that right now. My iPod might be gone after this one. In spite of the fact that that's iOS 7 and can't be upgraded any further. My iPod might be gone after that, after this one. And then watch the news to see if Google does the same thing, because they absolutely probably will at some point. All right, let's keep going. From CNN, Biden announces new emission standards target that 50% of vehicles sold in the U.S. by 2030 are electric. It's electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie, woogie. Not that kind of electric. From Ella Nilsson, President Biden unveiled another component of his administration's plan to fight the climate crisis on Thursday, announcing a new target that half the vehicles sold in the country by 2030 will be battery, electric, fuel cell, electric, or plug-in hybrid. Biden signed the executive order at the White House alongside representatives from Ford, GM, and Stellantis, and members of the United Auto Workers Union. The automakers are supporting Biden's new target, announcing their shared aspiration that 40 to 50% of their cars sold by 2030 to be electric vehicles, according to the joint statement from the three automakers. Speaking from the White House South Lawn on Thursday afternoon in front of 4 electric vehicles, Biden said the future of America's car manufacturing is electric, and there's no turning back. The question is whether we'll lead or fall behind in the race for the future, the president added. Throughout Biden's remarks, he emphasized that a move towards electric vehicles should come with an assurance that those vehicles and the batteries powering them should be made in the U.S. and with union workers. The EPA and Department of Transportation also announced Thursday that they're reversing a Trump-era rollback of fuel emission standards. The new proposed standards from the agencies for light-duty vehicles will be 10% more stringent than the Trump-era rules for the 2023 model year vehicles, and then becoming 5% more stringent each year through the 2026 model year vehicles. The proposed emission standard for mileage year 2026 is 52 miles per gallon, up from 43.3 miles per gallon under the Trump admin, which is the current mileage standard. The new standard is also up from 50.8 miles per gallon under the Obama admin rules for mileage year 2026. All right, this is all well and cool and everything. If you want to make electric vehicles more available, more accessible to people, make them more affordable first and foremost. Give them an actual environmental impact. That's the important part. Give them an actual environmental impact, because you've still got your systems out there where you mine for the lead and the precious metals and the rare earth minerals in child slave camps with diesel equipment in third world countries. So address that. You're not going to be able to make these batteries in the U.S. and make them affordable. I'm sorry. And I love the idea of U.S. manufacturing, but you're not going to be able to do that and make them affordable when every other country around the world is saying, hey, we don't have unions. Hey, come over here and manufacture over here, and we'll sell you the batteries for 30 cents on the dollar. But regardless of that, let's just look at automotive technology. And that's something I happen to know just a little bit about. Because, I mean, if you want to get to this stuff, you got to make it cool and make it fun. And then we all remember the 90s and how crappy some of that stuff is and how much excessive modification we did to vehicles in the 90s to make them fun. And even then, when everything started moving over to fuel injection and then emission standards on top of it, you come out of the early 80s and the late 70s with these big block, big inch engines that are fun to drive. Yes, they are horribly inefficient on fuel, but they're fun to drive. I mean, 78 Firebird with a 455 rocket. 68 Camaro with a 427 in it. You get your pickup truck right off the dealership lot with a big block in it. These big vehicles that were fun to drive. And then we move into the 80s when GM moved to its TBI injection. And Ford started putting out editions of the 302 that were 192 horse. On its best day, 192 horse. Because we had to scale back our horsepower for emission standards. Well, you scaled back your towing capacity. And with the underpowered engines, you were also blowing up heads, you were blowing out pistons, and cooking transmissions left and fucking right because you didn't have the power to push through them to do the kind of towing that people actually wanted to do. Not necessarily for stuff where it was, people going out and just driving around like they do with their diesels now. But just people who actually needed to use these for landscape, for construction, people that were actually using their trucks for trucks. And then even still, your performance car. 200 horse Camaro with a 305. What the fuck is that? 230 horse Camaro with a 350. At some point, they actually did get smart and move on to the 350 horse LS engine in the Camaro. But, I mean, when you're sitting alongside of this, your 302 and your F-150 or your Mustang, 245, 250 horse. And then everybody got the idea of, hey, we can make these things fuel efficient again and still push all kinds of power in there. In fact, the power that we're pushing into these things makes them more fuel efficient if you keep your foot out of the throttle. It makes them more efficient. So we can put We can put all this power back into these engines and they'll get more efficiency. And that's why I have a 415 horse pickup truck sitting outside that is almost completely stock. All the internals are stock in that truck. To get that kind of numbers out of stuff that we had out of the 90s cost thousands upon thousands of dollars. In fact, going on with this idea of, hey, I want to see if I can take the same engine that's in my pickup right now and put it in a Lincoln Mark 8. How much fun would that be? Take a 290 horse engine out of there and put a 400 horse engine in its place and still get 22, 23 miles to the gallon out of it. I think that would be fun. So that's the goal, going back with these electric vehicles. Not only make them actually have an environmental impact, but still market them, make them fun to drive. Make them fun vehicles. Don't just have your dad's fucking Prius sitting out there. Make it a fun vehicle. And people will move off of their old technology, their old carburation technology, their old fuel injection technology, and go into the fun stuff. All right. Anyway, that's completely off topic of what we were going with that. Let's grab a couple more here. We're almost done. Victim's family holds Marion County courts responsible for woman's brutal murder while suspect wore GPS monitor. From Courtney Crown. A murder suspect allegedly killed his girlfriend while on pretrial GPS monitoring for a December 2020 stabbing of a different victim, a gas station customer. Marcus Garvin is now charged with murder in the death of 30-year-old Christy Holt in late July. Garvin was charged with battery by means of a deadly weapon and battery resulting in serious bodily injury for stabbing a Circle K on Shadeland Avenue in December 26, 2020. Documents said he was irritated the victim was in the bathroom too long. Well, this guy sounds pleasant. Garvin's initial bond was set at $30,000, but Judge Chatrice Flowers lowered it to $1,500 with the GPS monitoring. The state objected to lowering the bond, but we are still working on discovering why they objected. I think we found it. I think we found why they objected. Garvin's public defender reached out to the Bail Project to pay for Garvin's release. The program released the statement to Vox 59. We received a referral for bail assistance from Mr. Garvin's public defender in January after the court lowered his bail from $30,000 to $1,500 and imposed a GPS monitoring system as a condition of release. As we do with all referrals, we interviewed Mr. Garvin to gather information about his legal history, his ability to return to court, and identify any unmet needs. He had a stable place to live with family and a plan to return to court to resolve his case. Generally speaking, we take several factors into consideration, including the types of needs the person might have and whether we can connect them to adequate services. In this case, the bail reduction was a key factor in the decision, as it indicated the court wanted to facilitate his release. David Gaspar, National Director of the Operations at the Bail Project. We reached out to the Marion County Courts and the Garvin's public defender. The Marion County Public Defender's Office said they have no comment. Yeah, I'm sure they don't. The presiding judge said they would not comment on the pending case or another judge's decisions. Well, that's legal. They actually can't do that. 7 months later, Garvin allegedly murdered his longtime girlfriend, Christy. Court records detail a gruesome murder. After being stabbed to death at the Always Inn on East 21st Street last month, Holt was left to decompose for nearly a week. Records said they were calling to the hotel on July 30th before 5 a.m. on a report of a suspicious person pulling a sheet with something heavy into a wooded area. They found Christie's body wrapped in the sheet. The hotel manager told police Christine and Marcus had been living in the hotel since December of 2020. Surveillance video showed the man dragging the heavy sheet. At one point, a human arm fell out, and the man quickly placed it back in the sheet, the document said. Is this an episode of CSI? Is this real life? This seems like Hollywood magic here, you guys. But hey, who would have thought that a guy out on bail for stabbing a person, no, he definitely wouldn't stab another person. No. That definitely wouldn't happen. All right, let's keep going. We're almost done here. And then get those last minute messages in, guys, because it's live chat time. Mexico sues U.S. gun manufacturings over arms trafficking toll, from E. Eduardo Castillo and Christopher Sherman. Good luck. Once it's out of the manufacturer's hands, it's not their concern anymore. I hate to tell you that. The Mexican government sued the United States gun manufacturers and distributors Wednesday in U.S. federal court. Now, you might have a case with the distributors. I doubt it, but you might. You might get somewhere there, but the manufacturers, no. Arguing that their negligent and illegal commercial practices have unleashed tremendous bloodshed in Mexico. The unusual lawsuit was filed in U.S. federal court in Boston. Among these being sued are some of the biggest names in guns, including Smith & Wesson Brands Incorporated, Barrett Firearms Manufacturing Incorporated, Beretta USA Corporation, Colt Manufacturing Company, LLC, and Glock Incorporated. Another defendant is Interstate Arms, a Boston area wholesaler that sells guns from all but one of the named manufacturers to dealers around the U.S. The manufacturers did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The Mexican government argues that companies know that their practices contribute to the trafficking of guns in Mexico and facilitate it. Oh boy, I'd love to see your justification on that. Mexico wants compensation for the havoc guns have wrought within its country. See, you're in a country where there's only one place to buy guns. Now, people have the ability to own weapons if they go through the extensive and intrusive background check to do so. But the only place for the legal people, the people who actually want to comply with the law to buy the guns, is in one store, and I believe it's in Mexico City. Mexico is a big fucking place. So the majority of your law-abiding people who would want to defend themselves can't go out and get a gun, and the majority of the guns in your country are being held by cartel members and fucking drug dealers, who are probably coming up to this country or countries to the south of you, stealing them and then bringing them back. So what you're trying to accomplish here, I don't know, but it's really fucking stupid. I can tell you that. The Mexican government brings this action to put an end to the massive damage that the defendants have caused by actively facilitating the unlawful trafficking of their guns to drug cartels and other criminals in Mexico, the lawsuit said. So this is going absolutely fucking nowhere. All right, let's keep going here. A little bit of foreign stuff for you. A little bit more foreign stuff because Mexico is a foreign country for now. Gaddafi's son, who was believed dead after being sentenced to execution and vanishing 6 years ago, announces plans to restore lost unity to Libya. Well, the first thing you got to do if you want to restore unity to Libya is stop letting your terrorists come over to the United States to buy bombs and only get shiny bomb casings full of used pinball parts. From Chris Jewers for Mail Online. Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, the son of Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi, has come out of hiding after vanishing 6 years ago and announced his intention to re-enter politics and take back control of Libya. Speaking in an interview with the New York Times, a former newspaper, Gaddafi said he intends to restore the lost unity after decades of chaos that came in the wake of his father's death and did not rule out standing for president. The 49-year-old is still wanted by the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity and was sentenced to death in a Libyan court in 2015. Gaddafi, in his first public comment since going into hiding, claimed that despite his conviction, he would command widespread support from the Libyan people who he says have become frustrated with disparate factions fighting for control. Thank you, Hillary Clinton. It's not in their interest to have a strong government, he told the New York Times, a former newspaper, speaking from a two-story villa inside a gated compound at Zintan in the west of the North African country. That's why they are afraid of the elections. They're against the idea of a president, they're against the idea of a state, and a government that has legitimacy derived from the people. He's going to get really, 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 really depressed in the next couple months. I predict it. He's going to get so depressed that he doesn't just shoot himself once, he's going to shoot himself twice. Well, we'll be watching this one here. That's going to be a fun one to see. From Newsweek, Israel ready to attack Iran as defense minister says, we need to take military action, from Brendan Cole. Now, see, Israel is ready for the U.S. to attack Iran. Or sell them the guns to go attack Iran. Israel's defense minister, Benny Gantz, has said that this country is ready to attack Iran and there must be a global response to the threat that the Islamic Republic poses. His comments come amid growing tensions following a deadly drone strike on an Israeli-operated tanker off the coast of Oman. Israel, along with the US and the UK, have blamed Tehran for the attack on the Mercer Street last week that killed 2 people. Iran has denied involvement. Israel is ready to attack Iran, yes, Gantz told Ynet on Thursday. Well, I know this is probably obvious, but I think before I went and started World War III over this, over an oil tanker of all things, I would go and make sure that it was actually Tehran that did it. I would double check on that if it was me first. We're at the point where we need to take military action against Iran. The world needs to take action against Iran now, he added, according to a translation of his comments tweeted by Ynet journalist Attila Somfalvi. On Wednesday, Gantz said that Iran has violated all the guidelines in the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which President Biden wants to restore. This is a developing story. Yeah, see, when Israel and Persia are ready to go to war with each other, I get a little bit nervous. I don't know about you guys, but I get a little bit nervous when those two countries are that pissed off with each other. And, you know, once again, if Tehran actually did this, then yeah, we need to hold them accountable for that because you can't be doing that shit. Don't hurt people. Don't take their stuff. But before I got myself in the middle of this little dust up here, I would make sure that Tehran actually did it because there are a lot of countries in this world that have a vested interest in Iran and Israel going to war with each other. And a lot of private companies too. So yeah, let's take a step back and let's just make sure this actually happened the way that they say it did. And I don't deny that somebody bombed the tanker, but I just want to make sure, dead sure, that especially when it's Israel and Persia, that it was actually Persia that did the aggression. All right. I got one more here for you guys and then a little video to go with it. Ethereum just activated a major change called the London Hard Fork. Here's why it's a big deal. From Mackenzie Sigalos. Ethereum's much hyped and somewhat controversial London hard fork has just activated. So far, news of a successful upgrade has coincided with a run-up in the price of Ethereum, the native token of Ethereum's blockchain. The cryptocurrency is at $2,620 US, up 3.9% in the last 24 hours. Congratulations to those of you who hold Ethereum. I do not. But congratulations to those of you who do. As a big part of the enthusiasm has to do with the fact that the software upgrade means a few big and necessary changes are coming to the code underpinning the world's second biggest cryptocurrency. It has always been a tough go for Ethereum users. The blockchain has a long-standing problem with scaling, and it's highly unpredictable, and sometimes exorbitant transaction fees can annoy even its biggest fans. The problem has become worse in recent months thanks to a surge in interest in non-fungible tokens, which are most likely built on Ethereum's blockchain, as well as explosive growth in the world of decentralized finance, or DeFi, which also largely uses the Ethereum blockchain. Thursday's changes to the code, which has little to do with the City of London, are designed to fix many of these issues by destroying or burning other coins and changing the way transaction fees work so they are more predictable. If you think of Ethereum like a highway, London has adding a few lanes to the tamp down traffic and is standardizing toll prices. Apparently there's a video that explains what's going to be happening with this. Gain a basic understanding and half the time it takes to mine a Bitcoin block, part 1 of 3, intro to 1559. Let's see what we got going on.
Hello, today I'll be explaining EIP 1559 in 5 minutes. First off, let's talk about what it doesn't do. It doesn't lower gas prices in the long run. What it seeks to do is to smooth out gas prices in between blocks when there's a sudden surge in demand. It also doesn't make ETH deflationary by default. Even though a little bit of ETH will be burned with every transaction, it doesn't necessarily mean that enough ETH will be burned to offset the current issuance. But now let's talk about some of the benefits. First, better transaction fee estimation. Users will have a lot more certainty when submitting a transaction that they know that they're not going to be overpaying for their transaction to be included. It also creates a more symbiotic relationship between ETH, the asset, and the Ethereum network. It'll now be required that a little bit of ETH be burned for every transaction to be valid. Lastly, it will allow for more reliable transaction inclusion. Since users can estimate fees better, they're less likely to have their transaction stuck in pending, waiting for it to be processed.
All right, and then there's 2 more parts to this here. I will link this video series back out in the Discord if you guys want to see that. But we got to check in with the live chat here, so what you guys are saying, and get out of here for the day. So that's the last thing that we do on a Friday is check in with the live chat and see what you guys are doing, and give a special thank you to everybody who chats in the live chat. Which you guys were busy this week, by the way. Lots and lots and lots of you, lots of messages, lots of stuff to go through, and I went through and read everybody's messages on all 3 major platforms yesterday too, because that's what we have to do at some of these here. But we'll open this up, we'll bring this up to the top and see what you guys are saying. But first, before we get into that, so you guys have a chance to get your last minute messages in, let's see who was chatting throughout the week here. On Monday, we had Quest Fanning, Random Randy, who I had a nice long conversation with yesterday. Get in the Discord if you guys want to participate in that kind of stuff. 80s Kid, Sully Blue, Mustard Freak was in here, but he didn't care for us very much. Sea of Noise also didn't care for us very much. Giles Corey was here, Vampire Hunter D, and Arvolt also came and rounded up Monday. On Tuesday, we had Quest Fanning, Random Randy, Ron Helton was here, Chilaga 1984, Gamers Yo, who actually wound up having to be muted, and he didn't come back after that because, like I say, you're always welcome back. I block very, very little in this channel. I block and ban very little. Usually, if you just throw somebody in a 10-minute timeout, they don't come back. Sully Blue was here, Arvolt, Ben Wild, and Katie Zed. On Wednesday, we had Quest Fanning, Ron Helton, Ben Wild, who has been a regular here, so thank you for that. 80s Kid was here, might be wrong. Random Randy, Arvolt, Chilaga 1984, Katie Zed. And I think we even had somebody that asked if we wanted to become famous yesterday. It was Notan Fix or Cabeln. Do you want to become famous? Buy primes, subs, followers. BigFollows.com. On Thursday, we had Quest Fanning, Ben Wild, Ron Helton. We had Silentcaster made his return, and I saw him in here today too. So thank you, Silentcaster. We had you and me towards the end of the show. So that was pretty cool. Over on the YouTube side, we had Blind Fear, R-Volt, and Mad Cow Mark. And over on the D-Live side, we had Must Be Right and Stephen Ignoramus giving us a check-in on the earlobes. So that was cool. What are you guys doing today? What are we doing? Ron Helton is here. Fire it up, J. Edgar. Life without liberty is meaningless. Let's see. Quest Fanning is here. Good morning. Ron Helton misses Robert. Yeah, I miss Robert too, actually. I hope he comes back. Corey Bush. These commies don't respect property rights. Doing the work. How insane. And then Ron Helton pointed out it was the mayor, not the governor's house. That was my bad. It was just an unruly mob. Correctly, it was an unruly mob. The McCloskeys were not reckless. The mob was in the wrong. Stop violating the liberty and property rights of others. Problem solved. The McCloskeys were reckless because they have horrible trigger discipline. Do not put your finger in the trigger guard until you intend to destroy something. Ever. That finger stays out of the guard until you are ready to fire that weapon. How many lives were saved in the BLM riots? All the lives. We are saints. It's only a little bit of property damage. We're saving lives out here. Thank you, Random Randy. It is unbelievable that we commies don't get our way. Stan, your own property, commie. What's that? You don't have any? That's your fault. Oof. Oh. I love Ron Helton. Silentcaster said, note she didn't say hurt white people. Yes. Thank you, Silentcaster. 80s Kid is here. If I didn't know who she was, I would mistake her for being a single parent with 8 kids living off wealth. Wow, I probably shouldn't have read that out loud. Oof. That's spicy. Trying to save lives. This Bush is another nut. Sounds par for the Bush name. Yep. No more Bushes in politics. It was mostly peaceful. The protests were for the Muslim faith. I thought it was for BLM. Burning, looting, and murder. Silentcaster says fiery but mostly peaceful. It was a peaceful gate smashing, says 80s Kid. It won't be her money. It'll be tax money. That's correct. She has a mostly peaceful bad attitude. I love it. I have the best live chat, you guys. Seriously. Oh, can I read that out loud? Oh, the fuck with it. They're all going to throw me off. I don't want to see her die. Just sit down and shut the hell up. Silentcaster says, you know how all those white supremacists that are constantly praised and advocated by corporations like Amazon and Google just constantly protected. Yeah, and I said the same thing actually about Joe Walsh right before we went live. Because he came to the top of my Twitter feed again. I left the GOP 18 months ago because I refused to partake in authoritarianism. You left the GOP 18 months ago because that's the way the corporate world was going, and you're a corporate fucking sellout. Well, apparently the jobs report was well in July. I don't believe it, given the fact that we only added 300,000 jobs. Apparently we got 943,000 people back to work in July. I don't believe it for a second. Although, given the fact that a lot of people are looking at the fact that they might actually start having to pay rent here, that might have driven it, but I still don't believe it. Ron Helton says, well, the majority of Aussies were for confiscating weapons, which disarmed them against their own government. I wonder if the pendulum will now swing back the other direction. Mad Cow Mark says, that's supposed to be an Australian accent. It's supposed to be, but I think it came out to be more Manchester. I think it came out to be more England than Australian. Silentcaster says the lockdowns are really harsh. Ron says deadly virus. Wow, the servants are lecturing their masters. 80s Kid says that looks fun. People have had enough. Mad Cow Mark says Dan Andrews done a secret deal with China. Now he says he's canceled the secret deal with China. The problem is we in Melbourne don't know if the deal was canceled because nobody knew what the deal was. That's interesting. The deal was made just before our first lockdowns. Joe Biden probably has the same deal, but for more money. Come on, man. The virus is going nowhere. Back to the world. It's still not going anywhere. It's here to stay. Thanks you, 80s kid. Katie Z is here. Ron Helt says, LA County has an estimated 9.9 million in population, so it's a little over 10%. Remember, that is reported cases based on the flawed PCR test. 80s kid says, Katie Z, I thought you said you were late because you're on vaccination. Matt Kalmark says, lucky boy, have you seen Joe Biden's brain? It's on vacation. The vaccine is an adventure, says Quest Fanning. Ron Held says, that's a problem right there in a nutshell. We have too many levels of government beating down on our heads. New Mexico Department of Education should not even exist. Oh, mountain biking in the Smoky Mountains. That does sound nice. My ex went down there, left me with her dog. That was when we were on the cusp of breaking up, so I'm sure she went down there and cheated on me. Quest Fanning says, Todd Seavey pointed out that New York City, among other places, is very opaque as to what consequences are if your business doesn't follow advice or follow a rule. Ron Helton says, hell, even the White House slipped up and admitted they have breakthrough cases. Jab is not effective. So yeah, Congress has infections as well. Let's see, horrible because he didn't get a trial, or horrible because I think that. Oh, I missed one from Matt Kalmar. Melbourne, Victoria, Australia is the testing place for the New World Order. They took our guns with a siege where many died. The supposed killer never went to trial. Quest Fanning took off to go check out Larry Sharp. 80s kid says the BBC is pure AIDS. I only like the purest strains. I don't like the impure ones. Ron Helton says, hello, government. One size does not fit all. That includes medical care and treatment. Katie Z. F's in the chat for Katie Z because she has a feeling the company's going to be requiring the vax soon. It's sad because I love my job. That would actually be, for me, one of the factors in deciding whether or not I wanted to get it or not would be, will I gain the ability to keep my job if I really like my job, which I don't. I'm sorry. Let's see. Random Randy is here. Says, I find it funny when people say they got the jab and didn't get sick. Based on how it's supposed to work, if you didn't get sick, it didn't work. Matt Kilmark says, wait 5 years after taking the vaccine and see how you are. They don't know if it could trigger cancer of some kind because they didn't have the time. Yeah, and that's been my thing too, is it's, I'm looking down the road. I'm like, are we going to start seeing the ads of, if you took the coronavirus vaccine and you have this symptom, you may be entitled to compensation. '80s kid says, my brother is 65. He came to see me a couple weeks ago. He asked if I was getting the vax. I said no. He said, I'm killing people and people like me are the problem. We haven't spoken since. Probably a good decision. Matt Kalmark hasn't seen his family since COVID started, and I said I wouldn't take the vaccine. App in the chat for Matt Kalmark. Yeah, everybody loved how I felt about Cheney. Arvold says, tell us how you really feel about Cheney. You seem to be holding back. I am. Because like I said at the time when I saw that, I am holding back because YouTube doesn't care for it. When you wish death on somebody, they don't seem to like that very much. I was about to make the same comment. The Cheney's upset we're not in more foreign conflicts. Ron Helton says, who cares from Dick Warhawk Cheney thinks the man should be at the Hague on trial for war crimes. Arvold says, you might point out these vaccines don't prevent you from getting the virus, therefore they make you breeding grounds for variants. Seems like we've got several ignorants from Steven's show today. Good to see. Yeah, we're starting to cross audience here. And that's part of the reason I want to get this project up off the ground, which means I actually do need to sit down and buy the domain so we can get started on the website itself, because I want to get this off the ground and have a place where we can go start crossing audience. And instead of having just a Stephen Ignoramus audience and a J. Edgar audience and a Generational Gap audience and an RRC audience, we can have a, well, I guess I'll tease the name, a Turn Some Pages Productions audience, where we all go around to each other's shows, and there's a convenient place where you can go recommend everybody else's programs. Chilaga's here. I'm super late. Got some friends from out of town over. Have a good weekend. Random Randy says, the right needs to call it what it is. The Dems are holding these illegals hostage for the votes of their legal family members. And yes, like I said, I would love to have refuge for all the Hong Kong people, because Hong Kong people are fucking based, yo. People from Hong Kong are based as fuck, and I want them over here. But anytime we start using a government agency to make a deferred action for something, it's kicking the fucking can down the road. Make a permanent solution for one of these things. So we don't have to kick the can down the road and we can actually solve some of these fucking problems. Quest Fanning says AOC's Tesla's going to shut down on her. 80s Kid says, I haven't had alcohol in nearly years. I never smoked either. I'm sorry to hear that. I enjoy both of those things, but the smoking doesn't like me very much. Matt Cal Mark says, maybe she could have blown your tube. Snoring would cause the vibration. Ron Held says, October Revolution, government's out of control. No, apparently the reinstallation is coming, according to Mike Lindell. The day of the pillow comes, you guys. It's coming. Just trust the plan. Do you trust the plan yet? Oh, that's dark, but it's probably accurate. 80s Kid says, vax versus unvax. If an unvaxxed person gets on the bus and then a vaxxed person gets on, the unvaxxed person will have to give up his seat. That sounds familiar. Yeah? 80s Kid says, I've never owned a cry phone or cry pad. Quest Fanning says, I thought Apple was marketing themselves on privacy. Apple won't even help you return someone's stolen device, but they're all for this. Yeah. Why make a target? You're only going to slow the markets. Matt Cal Mark says, if they can see your stuff, they can also put stuff on your phone, e.g. photos you never put there, took, or downloaded. Or an album from a band that you fucking hate. Come on, anybody really believe Apple isn't already giving the government a backdoor? I'm sure that Tim Cook is giving the government his backdoor. 80s Kid says, I just got a small car and fit a Suzuki Hayabusa engine in it, faster than any car. Yeah, and I mean, you're in England, aren't you, where small cars are all the fucking rage? Other than maybe batteries for Teslas now, I don't think almost any battery is manufactured in the U.S. Quest Fanning says, pony car style. Buy a petrol car for a reasonable price. Buy an electric car for $20,000 extra. Quest would like some right to repair legislation. 59 pickup. Beautiful. My one of the guys I work with, I just found out he's got a 69 Chevy, and it's he's got a basic bitch 350 in it, but it still looks nice. The body lines are all clean. There's no rust on the thing at all, so I mean, it's taken care of. I've got a 2014. I don't have any classic cars anymore. I wish I did. Quest, you've been listening to Louis Rossman. I don't know what that means. The LS was like 1998. Yeah, it was, because that was when they changed the headlights on the Camaro too, was 1998. Because before that it was the LT, and it was like a 210 horse fucking dog. Edgar drove the Lincoln before he got paid to drive the Lincoln. I don't know that reference. Unless you're making a JFK joke. When I rented a Tesla S with dual motion motors, the acceleration was insane. Yeah, dude, electric cars are fucking cool. But they're being marketed as just hippie pieces of crap. And then, of course, we've all got to see what happens in the long term with them, too. Emergency Channel says the worst thing about censorship is, and I guess his answer is censored. Quest Fanning's out. Have a great weekend, you guys. Random Randy says, am I terrible for laughing at the reason for stabbing that person at a gas station? No, because I was fighting back the laugh myself while I was reading that. McLeod is here. What's going on? Someone wore a GPS monitor and killed someone? Yep. Emergency Channel says, they were so fast with the Chauvin trial. The Ghislaine hasn't started, though she was arrested long before Chauvin was. Was she? I thought it was after. Because I thought she was arrested after the St. George riots. I'd have to go back and look again. That guy had a history of violent behavior. That's messed up. It's like how that one woman who claimed sexual assault from Trump gave a play-by-play of a Law & Order SVU episode. The guns that Obama handed the cartels. Yes, if this court case is allowed to proceed, it will set a bad precedent. Any manufacturer would be open to be sued if their product is misused by the end user. Fast and Furious, another misdeed by the government that has largely gone unpunished. Holder and Obama should be in prison for that alone. Dude, former presidents don't go to prison. Brandon Randy says, the always reliable intel from our Israeli friends is good enough for me. Honk honk. Bitcoin altcoins are based entirely off how much centralized money they are worth, hence not decentralized. That is a fair point. Casual Mining is here. So media purposely vilifies miners. They're the only way to truly decentralize and secure a blockchain. Fair. But they're trying to centralize that too. Thank you, Casual Mining. Emergency Channel says, Russia's ally of Iran, prevent, stall, sabotage, contain, and end World War III. Prevent MAD. World War III should never be. Mustard Freak and Sea of Noise sound like they were some truly spurg names. They were. Oh, they were. Ron Helton says, anytime the government cannot control or have something, they will vilify and destroy it. There's a lot of envy from government parasites. Moving to proof of stake hurts small miners able to support their incomes and raises financial barriers to entry into the new, less secure proof of stake. Ron Helton says, is it strange that only the U.S. is allowed to have allies? That is some more of the moronic American exceptionalism that keeps agitating more wars. Casual Mining says, agree, Ron. They don't want a secure and transparent financial system. Proof of work mining provides that. Random Randy says, I feel like legacy laws are needs for political office. The official ex-subject is here with a question mark. Welcome in, official ex-subject. We are just reading live chat right now, so I'm just catching up to you now. Random Randy says, I always point out that the C-class action lawsuits against Big Pharma have been for approved drugs. I think you mean pharma. I don't think you mean Big Dharma, because I don't think a lot of us here are into Eastern religion. But maybe you meant Big Dharma. Maybe we are going Hinduism, full Hindu on this, when they claim the jab is basically approved and safe. Oh, there he pointed out Big Dharma. No pharma. Permanent solution is very close to another end solution, I seem to remember. Ron Helton says the Freedom Scoop Network should consider a weekend wrap-up with all you guys on the same stream, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday night. Well, once we get the new network going, we'll actually probably consider that, and we'll hopefully do a little bit more crossover. I don't know if it'll be weekly just because of everybody's schedule, but I do want to do like the Daily Wire Backstage does, where they get a bunch of their creators together, actually in-house together, smoking cigars and drinking and, having a good time. And maybe not all 6 shows at once. So, Mad Cow Mark says, I've got an 82 WB Ute Holden with injected 5-liter. Ooh. I don't know what a Ute is. Isn't that like the El Camino, the truck and a car body? With an injected 5-liter. So for a Holden, that would be a 305, correct? I think so, yes. Random Randy says, I said the Lincoln thing because you talked about dropping that truck engine in a Lincoln. The reference is a Matthew McConaughey commercial. Oh. I seem to remember that commercial. I just didn't remember the out of it. Ron Helton says there are a lot of former presidents who should have gone to prison. Wars based on lies must be punished, just a bunch of murderers and psychopaths. Matt Calmark says 6-liter VESS Commodore. Ooh. 5-liter VTSS Commodore and a 5.7-liter VYSS Commodore. I'm familiar with the Commodore because I was a big W-body fan when I still bought GM, which that would be the same as like the Monte Carlo or a Grand Prix, even though they don't make the Grand Prix anymore. So those sound quick. I've driven a Monaro. I have driven one of those. I've never driven a Commodore. I have driven an import Monaro, though, which shifting with this hand is a pain in the prick for me because I've always done it with this hand. You should call it cross-addressing. That's actually not a bad idea, Random Randy. Matt Calmark says, yes, 308. Emergency Channel did the homework for me, and that's going to be the last message for the day that says Chauvin was arrested on May 29th. Maxwell on July 2nd. The trial hasn't even started yet. And I've got my phone in the way for the Instagram stream, so I can't see the rest of it. So you're right. Chauvin was arrested first. Yeah, because I didn't even hear about her until after the St. George riot started. Monaro was a two-door Commodore. Yeah, I know it because it looked like the Monaro did look like very much like a two-door Grand Prix almost. It had kind of that's what the Pontiac GTO when they ran that in this country was based on, was the Monaro. So it looked like a Grand Prix. It was a similar vehicle. So yeah, I see that. You see, you guys get rear-wheel drive vehicles over there in passenger cars. We only get those if we buy a truck or an SUV, which I'm kind of jealous about, I'm not going to lie. But with that, we're going to head out of here. So, where's the music? Where's the music? Throw the music up. All right, we are going to head out of here for the day and for the week. We'll do probably a weekend stream doing some more Fallout 3. I don't know if I'll do a weekend stream of just talk and chat, but we'll do one for Fallout 3, so pay attention for that. The Fallout 3 ones are usually happening on Sundays, so watch for that. We'll see what's happening with that, and we'll see where that goes. Otherwise, we'll be back here Monday for more contemporary, and the Red Net show as well, which I have no idea who my guest is going to be for Monday's Red Net show, so that'll be fun. But we're going to have one because always at 5:30, there's going to be a programming here. And also always at 7 a.m. weekday morning. So come back and hang out with us for that. We will see you next time, no matter which direction the next time is. No matter which program you're on, we'll be there. And stick around if you're on Twitch because we're going to go raid my friend Steven Ignoramus. So definitely we will see you next time. Until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.